Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. Chapter 10. Halloween. Malfoy couldn't believe his eyes when he saw that Harry and Ron were still at Hogwarts next day, looking tired but perfectly cheerful. Indeed, by next morning, Harry and Ron thought that meeting the three-headed dog had been an excellent adventure, and they were quite keen to have another one. In the meantime, Harry filled Ron in about the package that seemed to have been moved from Gringotts to Hogwarts, and they spent a lot of time wondering what could possibly need such heavy protection. "It's either really valuable or really dangerous," said Ron. "Or both," said Harry. But as all they knew what sure was about the mysterious object was that if it was about 2 inches long, they didn't have much chance of guessing what it was without further clues. Neither Neville or Hermione showed the slightest interest in what lay underneath the dock and the trapdoor. All Neville cared about was never going near the dock again. Hermione was now refusing to speak to Harry and Ron, but she was such a bossy know-it-all that they saw as an added bonus. All they really wanted now was a way of getting back at Malfoy, and to their great delight, just such a thing arrived with the post about a week later. As the owls flew into the great hall as usual, everyone's attention was caught at once by a long thin package carried by 6 large screech owls. Harry was just as interested as everyone else to see what was in this large parcel, and was amazed when the owl saw it down and dropped it right in front of him, knocking his bacon to the floor. They had hardly floated out of the way, and then another owl dropped a letter on top of the parcel. Harry ripped open the letter first, which was lucky, because it said, "Do not open the parcel at the table. It contains your new Nimbus 2000, but I don't want everybody knowing you got a broomstick or they all want one. Oliver Wood will meet you tonight in the Quidditch pitch at 7 o'clock for you first training session. Professor McGonagall." Harry had difficulty hiding his glee as he handed the note to Ron to read. "A Nimbus 2000!" Ron moaned enviously. "I've never seen touched one." They left the hall quickly, wanted to unwrap the broomstick in private before the first lesson, but halfway across the entrance hall, they found the way upstairs buried by Crabbe and Goyle. Malfoy seized the package from Harry and felt it. "That's a broomstick," he said, throwing it back to Harry with a mixture of jealousy and spite on his face. "You'll be foiled this time, Potter. First years aren't allowed to." Ron couldn't resist it. "It's not any old broomstick," he said. "It's a Nimbus 2000. What did you say you got at home, Malfoy? A Comet 260? Ron grinned at Harry. "Comets look flashy, but they're not in the same league as the Nimbus." "What would you know about it, Weasley? You couldn't afford half the handle," Malfoy snapped back. "I suppose you and your brothers have to save up, twig by twig." Before Ron could answer, Professor Flitwick appeared at Malfoy's elbow. "Not arguing, I hope, boys?" he squeaked. "Potter's been sent in broomstick, Professor," said Malfoy quickly. Yeah, that's right," said Professor Quicklick, beaming at Harry. "Professor McGonagall told me all about the special circumstance, Potter. And what model is it?" "A Nimbus 2000, sir," said Harry, finding not to laugh at the look of horror on Malfoy's face. "And it's really thanks to Malfoy here that I've got it," he added. This is the broomstick. Harry and Ron headed upstairs, smothering their laughter at Malfoy's obvious rage and confusion. "Well, it's true," Harry shouted as they reached the top of the marble staircase. "If you hadn't stolen Neville's Remembrall, I wouldn't be in the team." "So I suppose you think that's a reward for breaking rules?" came an angry voice from just behind them. Hermione was stomping up the stairs, looking disappointedly at the package in Harry's hand. "I thought you weren't speaking to us," said Harry. "Yes, don't stop now," said Ron. "It's doing us so much good." Hermione marched away with her nose in the air. Harry had a lot of trouble keeping his mind on these lessons that day. It kept wandering up to the dormitory where his new broomstick was lying under his bed, or straying off to the Quidditch pitch where he had been learning to play that night. He bowled his dinner that evening without noticing that he was eating, and then rushed upstairs with Ron to unwrap the Nimbus 2000 at last. "Wow!" Ron sighed as the broomstick rolled onto Harry's bedspread. Even Harry, who knew nothing about the different brooms, thought it looked wonderful, sleek and shiny, with a mahogany handle. It had a long tail of neat, straight twigs, and Nimbus 2000 written in gold near the top. This is Halloween in Hogwarts on Quidditch Pitch. As 7 o'clock drew nearer, Harry left the castle and set off towards the Quidditch pitch in the dusk. He'd never been inside the stadium before. Hundreds of seats were raised in stands around the pitch so that the spectators were high enough to see pitch with the golden poles with hoops on the end. Reminded Harry of the little plastic sticks Muggle children blew bubbles through, except that they were 50 feet high. Too eager to fly again to wait for wood, Harry mounted his broomstick and kicked off from the ground. What a feeling! He swooped in and out of the goalposts and then sped up and down in the pitch. The Nimbus 2000 turned wherever he wanted at his slightest touch. "Hey, Potter, calm down!" Oliver Wood had arrived. He was carrying a large wooden crate under his arm. Harry landed next to him. "Very nice," said Wood, his eyes glinting. "I see what McGonagall meant. You really are a natural. I'm just going to teach you the rules this evening. Then you will be joining team practice 3 times a week." He opened his crate. Inside there were 4 different-sized balls. "Right," said Wood. "Now Quidditch is easy enough to understand, even if it's not too easy to play. There are 7 players on each side. 3 of them are called chasers." 3 chasers, Harry repeated as Wood took out a bright red ball about the size of a football. "This ball is called quaffle," said Wood. The chasers threw the quaffle to each other and tried to get it through one of the hoops to score a goal. 10 points every time the quaffle goes through one of the hoops. Follow me? The chaser threw the quaffle and put it in through the hoops to score, Harry recited. "So that's sort of like a basketball on broomstick with 6 hoops, isn't it?" "What's basketball?" said Wood, confused. "Never mind," said Harry quickly. "Now that's another player on each side who's called Keeper. I'm Keeper of Gryffindor. I have to fly around our hoops and stop the other team from scoring. 3 chasers, 1 keeper," said Harry, and who was determined to remember it all. "And they played with a quaffle. Okay, got that. So what are they for?" He pointed at 3 balls left inside the box. "I'll show you now. Take this." He handed Harry a small club, a bit like a roundest bat. "I'm going to show you what the Badgers do," Wood said. "These 2 are the Bludgers." He showed Harry 2 identical balls, jet black and slightly smaller than the red quaffle. Harry noticed that they seemed to be straining to escape the straps holding them inside the box. "Stand back," Wood warned Harry. He bent down and threw one of the Bludgers. At once the black ball rose high in the air and then pelted straight at Harry's face. Harry swung at it with the bat to stop it breaking his nose and sent it zigzagging away into the air. It zoomed around their heads and then shot at Wood, who dived on top of it and managed to pin it to the ground. "See?" Wood pants, forcing the struggling Badger back into the crate and stepping it down safely. The Bludgers rocked around, trying to knock player off the drooms. "That's why I have 2 beaters on each team. The Weasley twins are ours. It's their job to protect their side from the Bludgers and try and knock them towards the other team. So, think you got it all?" 3 chasers try and score with a quaffle. The keeper guards the goal spots. The beaters keep the Bludgers away from their team. Harry reeled off. "Very good," said Wood. Have the bludgers ever killed anyone? Harry asked, hoping he sounded offhand. Never at Hogwarts. We've had a couple of broken jaws, but nothing worse than that. Now, the last member of the team is the Seeker. That's you, and you don't have to worry about the quaffle of the bludgers, unless they crack my head open. Don't worry, the Weasleys are more than a match from the bludgers. I mean, they're like a pair of human bludgers themselves. Wood reached into the crate and took out the fourth and last ball. Compared with the quaffle and the bludgers, it was tiny, about the size of a large walnut. It was bright gold and had a little flattening silver wings. This, said Wood, is the golden snitch, and is the most important ball of the lot. It's very hard to catch because it's so fast and difficult to see. It's the Seeker's job to catch it. You got to whale in and out of the chasers, beaters, bludgers, and quaffle to get it before the other team's Seeker, because whichever Seeker catches the snitch wins his team an extra 150 points, so they nearly always win. That's why Seekers get fooled so much. A game of Quidditch only ends when the snitch is caught, so it can go on for ages. I think they record in 3 months. They had to keep bringing on substitutes so the players could get some sleep. Well, that's it. Any questions? Harry shook his head. He understood what he had to do all right. It was doing it what was going to be the problem.